It will strengthen your report if you will be able to say, I saw it myself. Yes, it was not a world. It was not a part of humanity. I never saw such things. Nobody wrote about this kind of reality. I was told that these are human beings. They didn't look like human beings.
The Holocaust, perhaps the most horrific and widely known event in human history. Over 11 million innocents murdered in a mass extermination campaign. On the surface is the image of a grieving world, mourning a tragedy beyond comprehension, a horror seemingly kept hidden for years. On closer observation, however, it becomes apparent that the world was well informed of the atrocity. People simply hadn't wanted to know. Despite this self-imposed ignorance, one man was determined to spread the message of the Holocaust, putting his life on the line to gather dangerous information and meet with world leaders to deliver his frantic plea. This man's name was Jan Karski. Working as a courier for the Polish underground, and after witnessing Nazi atrocities, Karski made it his personal mission to spread word of the Holocaust in hopes of eliciting a response. Although far less well known than other leaders of his time, Jan Karski, his work with the Polish underground, and his message have forever altered the historical perception of the Holocaust and continue to evoke a change in perspective in the general public. He worked to bring light to a message that, while largely unheeded at the time, holds incredible historical significance today in our understanding of one of the most horrifying events in history and its contemporary application. An individual of incredible moral courage and integrity, Karski also serves as an irrefutable example of moral leadership. His ever-enduring determination to do the right thing and his lifelong work to spread awareness make up a legacy of ethicality which will continue to inspire generations to come.
I reported what I saw. Who knows? Perhaps it will shake the conscience of the world.
The Second World War, now figured to be the most destructive conflict in history, began in 1939 when, looking to dominate Europe, German forces invaded Poland. Despite the Poles' fierce determination to defend their homeland, Poland was soon fully occupied by both Germany and the Soviet Union.
The wartime occupation in Poland was probably the cruelest. About 1/6 of the Polish population died.
Anticipating aid from Allied forces, however, Poland maintained a government in exile and established an underground democratic state aimed at driving resistance.
You had a pretty strong, popularly supported resistance movement, which was really the largest and best organized in all of Europe. Underground worked very hard to try to let the outside world know what was happening.
There were couriers, like enormous risks to try and get the information to a government in exile.
Among these couriers was devout Catholic artillery officer and aspiring diplomat Jan Kozelewski. Upon escaping Soviet imprisonment, Karski immediately sought out the budding resistance movement, officially joining the underground in late 1939. His acute intelligence, knowledge of languages, and near photographic memory earned him the position of courier between the resistance in Poland and the government in exile, where he proved to be an invaluable asset to his nation's cause.
25-year-old man who put on himself a huge task.
To be a courier in the home army meant that you were seen as a leader. You had to have incredible, not only courage, but skills.
He writes, I was sworn to transmit all the most important secrets, plans, internal affairs, and points of view. I regard it as the most honorable appointment I have ever received. Serving as a courier was incredibly risky. Karski's second major mission was tainted in mid-1940 when he was arrested by the Gestapo with incriminating microfilms. Maintaining his unyielding integrity, he attempted suicide to prevent revealing information under torture, but was later rescued by members of the underground and, by 1942, had resumed his work as a courier. Before embarking on another major mission, a trip to London to report to world leaders on conditions in Poland to garner support for the underground, Karski was approached by two Jewish leaders.
They wanted to inform me what is happening to the Jews. I said I will take messages from them. I go with him to visit the Jewish ghetto. It wasn't humanity. It was some hell.
He saw firsthand the conditions. He also made a trip to what he thought was one of the death camps. He only got as far as a transport point, but what he saw was bad enough.
And then was my mission to impress upon all people, Jewish problem is unprecedented. Hitler will exterminate all Jewish population.
What he saw entered his soul. He had enough courage to decide he was going to try and talk about this. The importance of this extended beyond the numbers being killed, but what it meant for civilization. Just the facts and the figures were not enough. You needed someone like Karski who would be a witness.
Karski set out, advocating for immediate intervention from the free world. He spoke with countless Allied officials in London and Washington, including British Foreign Secretary Anthony Eden, Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter, and even President Roosevelt. But although his accounts are said to have influenced Allied policy, he was largely met with indifference.
Karski is struggling to get the people he's talking to understand, not just in terms of the raw facts, to also take it to the next level of moving those governments to action.
The FDR said to him, our message is simply we're going to win the war, and he basically ignored the whole issue of the Holocaust.
For the countries that were trying to fight Hitler, saving the Jews was not their first priority.
I think people did believe what he was saying, they just didn't care enough about what he was saying.
Though disheartened, Karski continued to spread his message. His book, Story of a Secret State, detailing his missions, his eyewitness accounts, and the disbelief he received, became an overnight bestseller, enabling him to conduct extensive book tours and serving today as both key testimony and proof that the world had been informed of Nazi plans. He wrote to every news outlet he could think of and gave more than 200 lectures, trying desperately to convey the consequences of the world's indifference toward the Holocaust, but was, in the end, left to feel that his efforts had been in vain.
When I met Karski, the thing he most regretted was that he wasn't believed.
Nothing important happened as a result of my mission. It didn't do any good.
Even when he felt like he had in some way failed, he succeeded in demonstrating that example of morality.
One of the most magnificent examples of moral leadership of our time. The main point of his mission was not to report on the Jewish situation.
It wasn't what he was supposed to be doing, and yet he did it. That's leadership.
Leadership isn't simply measured in badges or ranks.
He was a leader in the sense of not necessarily leading a government or an army, but playing a critical role in the whole effort to fight the Germans.
Later, Karski's moral leadership would continue to set him apart, as, after the war, he embarked on his next mission, raising awareness in the aftermath. Unwilling to return to now communist Poland, he became an American citizen, married, earned his PhD, and became a professor at the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University. After years of dedicating himself to education in relative obscurity, he was essentially rediscovered, and once again began, despite the pain it caused him, to tell the story of his wartime exploits.
The second original sin had been committed by humanity. This sin will haunt humanity to the end of time. It does haunt me, and I want it to be so.
Although Karski was later commended for his lifelong work, receiving many honors, the world's indifference to his wartime warnings serves as an important lesson for today. His groundbreaking reports comprise some of the most substantial evidence of the indifference of the world to the Holocaust, further stressing the seriousness of the international community's dangerous disregard for the need to combat genocidal violence.
Today we have very similar situations.
I wish what we could say is now we really understood what happened during this period, and so we're not going to greet the latest episodes of genocide with the same forms of denial, and it's not our responsibility. Yet it seems to just repeat itself. And the scale and the way this is happening, you can't just fit it in the atrocity box.
We always need to study the Holocaust.
One misconception is that somehow that was a great historical accident.
The assumption was that Americans didn't know about the Holocaust while it was happening.
You can't say that the world wasn't warned. Some people tried, and Karski certainly belongs in that category.
Jan Karski died on July 13, 2000, but his story continues to gain prominence, and his enduring legacy of morality lives on.
I think the legacy is the example of his warning to the world, and then his willingness to dedicate the latter decades of his life to retelling the story to a world that remains in need of being reminded. This legacy of truth about one of the darkest episodes in modern history will live on.
Through pursuing simple human decency, acting as a voice for the voiceless, and leading the crusade to expose one of the darkest crimes to date, Jan Karski left his mark on history. His was a feat not of triumphs, but of incredible morality, setting an example for all.
We have infinite capacity to do good, and every one of us has infinite capacity to do evil. And we have a choice.